Hey guys, Rodney Walker here with another edition of Getting Funded with Rodney. I'm excited to have today a wonderful lady who's doing some awesome things in the Flint, Michigan area, none other than Miss Bethany Collins. Welcome, Bethany.
Hi, Rodney. Thank you for having me here today.
It's my pleasure. How are you doing today?
I am doing well on this late March afternoon, so I'm good.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to get a chance to have you today, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of your story about some of the wonderful things you're doing up that way. Tell us this, Bethany. You're in the Flint, Michigan area, and I know things are changing all across the landscape nationwide. But tell us, first of all, how did you get started? And we want to know what's going on and what are you seeing on the scene, on the grant scene out your way. But tell us first, how did you get started in grants?
Actually, indirectly, I was working for a youth development organization called Bridges to the Future. And I was working with United Way on their side of the program, and I was doing their PR for them. And part of my job was, to go out and highlight the schools and what was going on in after school development. But my part of my pay was through a grant. So I had to help write grants to help basically pay for my salary. So that's how I got involved with grants, just
Well, listen,
indirectly.
I guess especially if your livelihood depends on it, you got to be writing some grants.
Yes, yes,
Get 'em.
exactly.
And did you so you kind of stumbled into it, it sounds like, from this job, and then you just started doing it, I'm assuming.
Yes, yes. Basically for survival in a sense. All the jobs I got afterward depended on a grant. So you had to be part of a grant team to write grants. So I was a part of a grant team. We wrote a $5 million grant. And that was basically a million for my site and for every other site that was part of the team. So we were always writing grants for our own building, for sports equipment, for different activities, to take kids on trips. So we were just always writing grants and learning how to tell a story that's really, really well.
Wow. So you took the marketing background that you had and merged that into grant writing. And what was it like when you were first starting out? Because you started learning this, it sounds like on the job
Mhm.
training. Is that
Yeah,
how it developed?
basically, yes. After I started, working with my group and trying to determine what makes a grant really well, as far as writing one, how to tell the story well, and convince others. That was another part of how can you convince others to see what you're trying to sell them to invest in your project. And
Mm.
that was always the struggle. But I always like storytelling, so that kind of like formed with my background of hearing stories as a kid growing up.
Very great. That's great. So you already enjoyed this area, and now you're kind of merging it with your marketing. You have a marketing background. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I have a degree in marketing from the University of Michigan, Flint, and I started out doing hospitality sales. So I knew my community, how to sell products, how to sell intangible and tangible products, which is very interesting background because you have to sell the story, the end solution when you're doing with an intangible product as compared to a tangible product because you kind of see what you're getting. You have a chance to explore the product before you say yes or no, I'm going to make a decision to buy or not buy.
Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, and I tell people a lot of time, especially when you have skills like you have with the marketing, that is just a natural fit, especially as it relates to telling the story with grants, because a
Mhm.
lot of it is marketing just through your grant proposal. So that's awesome that you already had that background. What are some of the things that you've seen once you started doing grant writing, knowing the background that you already had in marketing? What were some of the natural things that you saw that kind of maybe fitted that made telling that story easier, or some of the unique things you kind of noticed as you kind of dove into doing the grant writing?
Um, and when I think about another part of my background, my grandmother used to take my brother and I to court cases,
Okay.
and we would see how court trials would take place. So there you're telling a story and you're trying to convince somebody of your situation. So that kind of played into it as well. And then I just started seeing like the natural, to me, it was like a natural fit, when it came with marketing, because I saw what you're trying to do as far as convince somebody to, purchase your product or why they should sign up, but also telling that story to invest into your project as
Mhm.
well. And so that just kind of evolved over time, working in community groups, working with nonprofit organizations, block clubs, stuff like that, and just try to tell that story, but backing it up with data too.
Exactly. That's awesome. And do you have any area that you like to focus on, or do you do general grant writing? Tell us more about that.
Mhm. Pretty much I focus on educational writing as far as dealing with schools and school districts. I like sports. I'm a big skier, so I love to write about anything about sports and getting kids or adults involved in sports in any kind of way. And I've done that. And healthy living. Also, I'm also focusing on mental health. That's very big since COVID has, we're living a COVID time right now.
Mhm.
Mental health is a big topic right now, and I'm working with a couple organizations that's focusing on mental health and how to prevent it. What I could say, awareness, as
Mhm.
well as how to live a well life. Take down the stressors that people face.
Yeah, the health part is really big, and then also tying it in with that mental health part as well.
Mhm.
Are out of those that you have, I know those are different ones, and those are kind of some different unique areas. Any one of those more that you have a more of a leaning toward that you say, man, this if out of all those, this is my favorite that I enjoy the most probably.
No, I just kind of stick to those three right for right now, and I do a few business grants as well. But those are my kind of three because that's kind of where I fit in because I also do marketing consulting. So I'm
Uh-huh.
always telling people how to market their business better, and I always find opportunities where they can get money, to help grow their business.
That's awesome. That's good. And then with that, I guess that's a very valuable skill to be able to present to them because not only are you telling the story in paper with the proposal, but then being able to identify those other areas. And that sounds like something that's really valuable. Do you like working or are you mostly working with clients that are in that area, the Flint area? Are you working with people all over?
I'm starting to branch out from the Flint area. I'm having people calling me, by word of mouth, but I'm starting to branch out now. I'm getting a few phone calls from people from other cities and states that need assistance with grant writing.
That's great. Tell me this, when with the grants that you are noticing that are out there, what changes have you been seeing in the whole grant industry? Any changes with COVID or anything beforehand that you see that's kind of out there that may be important for people to know?
What I'm seeing right now is how you can marry the two because with COVID, everybody's working from home and working in a remote situation. And so
Mhm.
people who are out there in the job market right now, they got these different names. There's no more project manager and stuff like that. Titles like it's talking about sustainability. That's a big one right now. How
Mm,
can we sustain, and keep help people in the environment and where we are in our community? And so I'm seeing, like with corporations, they want to make the change over to be lessen their carbon footprint, but they
okay.
may need a grant to help them make that change. So I'm kind of seeing that right now growing where corporations are kind of reaching out to grant writers, say,
Wow.
hey, we need a grant to maybe with the government because there's this opportunity out here and we want to change over to maybe all electric
Mm,
situation so we can lessen our carbon footprint so we can have a nice sustainability model
yeah.
to sustain our community as well as our organization. That's what I'm
Wow.
seeing right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes, especially with what you're making mention of and how a lot of infusion of money is coming in at this time
Mm-hmm.
that has a lot of businesses' attention. Do you see any other changes, like for example, things that are taking place in the education arena? You're doing some work with educators as well, with schools and school districts. Are you primarily are you primarily working with any particular grade within those districts and anything that you see going on there?
With the schools, I pretty much work K through 12.
K through 12,
So
okay.
yes, I worked with all of them, but particularly after school programs because you have a little bit more leeway to do activities with kids
Mhm.
than activities during the school day. But I love doing youth development programs. I love
Wow.
doing.
That's great. It's going to be a lot of funds coming that way, especially right now with
Mhm.
the recent stimulus package that was passed. A lot of
Yes.
funds are coming in that way. So
Mhm.
nonprofits and schools and those type of organizations that are doing like after school programs or mental health programs, what are some things that if somebody's possibly looking to say, hey, Beth, I want to work with you and
Mhm.
they are coming down the pipeline,
Mhm.
what are some things they need to have prepared that makes it easier for them to be able to work with you? And what
Mhm.
does that look like?
It's great if you have a business plan or
Mm,
some kind of plan written out because that's your roadmap, and so when it comes to putting that proposal together, a lot of those answers can be answered in your business plan because you're targeting your audience. Your demographics, their psychographics. In other words, where does your target market like to go after work? What do they like to do? So how can I put myself in a position or position myself where my target audience may go? So something like that. So definitely a business plan and having a nice solid idea of where you want to go. How can you use this dollars that you're looking for to help further your goals and your ideas that you want to do in the community? So definitely have a business plan.
That's great. Would you say most of the people that approach you, that they already have that or not, or 50-50, or what was it? What percentage would you say had that? Because I know there may be some people that may be listening, businesses that may be there and they're like, hey, we don't have that. We need to get this together.
Right.
So what would you say right now is that kind of looks like in your area?
I have some people that are just recently approached me. They have some great ideas. I say, if you have a plan together, that helps us narrow down what we can focus on and make us work a little bit faster instead of, trying to guess and shoot in the dark and see what sticks to the wall. So when you have that plan of some kind in place, it really does make a difference. But I have worked with people who don't have a plan, but they've been doing the work.
Yeah.
So based on that, so let's put a summary together of basically who did you serve, where did you serve? Let's look at the census data. Let's narrow it down as far as getting the census tracts, because if you can show that information of your census tract data of your audience and where they go and what they do, that makes a big difference, because that's one of the questions they always ask in a grant. Who's your audience and what do they do? And can you tell me more about them?
Yeah, that's great. So those of you that are out there trying to get a grant, you think about going to Bethany, make sure you do your preparation. I think with any grant writer, do that preparation. Yeah. That's fantastic. What do you like most about being a grant professional? What excites you most about that?
And my own hours, which I like, because sometimes I stay up late writing grants because that's when I feel like writing. However, what I really like is the storytelling aspect. Convincing organization to invest in your program. In other words, I didn't even have to happen. That's my phone. As far as telling your story, providing a solution that you're saying that you can do as far as with your grant. So you want to sell the end solution, the end picture. That's what you definitely want to do. And then you want to also have in mind, how can you help the individual as far as telling that success story and position yourself and nurturing that client as far as, you're constantly out there showing what you're doing and just nurturing that person. And eventually, hopefully they will sign on board as far as, okay, I see what they're doing out here. Let me get on board with them. So that kind of aspect, if that makes sense.
Very nice. Do you remember the first time you received a grant and the grant that you wrote was funded? What was that moment? What was that moment like for you?
I do. The first grant that I wrote by myself was for a $5,000 grant. It was for a exercise program for children. And the lady happened to reach out to me. She said, we're trying to find some more schools in your district that will take this grant, and no one has written for her. So she reached out to me. I said, let me write it up real quick. I did it, and it was about 2 or 3 pages. And I was very happy that we got it. Wow. That was something I did on my own.
Yeah, I know that very first one you get funded is really special. And then you haven't looked back since, because you raised, if I remember correctly, how much have you raised? Remind me.
It's over $1 million, because I was part of a team that wrote the $5 million grant, which I got a million of that. And then the other small grants I have written in between. So it's over $1 million. So I want to keep going out. I definitely want to get some bigger grants coming in through hopefully later on this year, because my clients are pushing for it now. So
that's great. I mean, like when you start thinking about the impact that $1 million has had and what it can do and how it can help families and people and youth and all that, that's really remarkable. Well, tell me this, if somebody wants to reach out to you and say, hey, Bethany, I'm interested in having you secure some of those monies for us, the way you raise millions for others, what do they need to do? We know they need to be prepared. Okay. She's already let us know you need to be prepared, but she'll work with you either way. But what do they need to do to reach out to you to be able to connect, and where can they go?
They can go to my website. It's Brady Collins Group, BradyCollins.group, GROUP.com. Or they can reach me by my phone at 810-221-1450. Or they can just send me an email at bradycollinsgroup@gmail.com.
That's fantastic. Tell me this as we get ready to wrap up. There are a number of different people that are in need of different type of grant funding. I know grant professionals tend to have people that they like to work with. Who would you say your ideal client is? If somebody, we know those kind of different groups you like to work with, but who's your ideal client? Who are some people that you say, great, if this is you, you really should be coming to me?
You know what? My ideal client is I like working with business owners.
Mhm.
I also like working with youth development groups, sports groups, and they have their information already together. They know who their target audience is. They know where they hang out. They know what they like to do. And that makes us go much faster, hit the ground running to find those grants for them to make those opportunities happen.
Got it. Got it. So I guess again, the name of the game, guys, out there is preparation. Be
Yes.
prepared, get your act together, and go check out Bethany. She'll help you to get some more funding the way she's been doing for all these other organizations. Bethany, I want to thank you for your time hanging out with me and getting a chance to share some information about what you're doing. And those of you that are looking for a grant professional that are that's in the Flint, Michigan area, and you don't have to be in that area. I think she works with people all over. But if you're there, make sure you reach out to her. She'll take great care of you. And remember, guys, be brave, be bold, be brilliant, and always take charge. See you next time.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.